Oh yeah, I forgot it doesn't give you a warning when you actually start recording.
Yeah, it just says recording in
It just
progress.
starts
We're ready to
recording in
go.
the top corner. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. We do podcast, and I think that's pretty cool. My name's Dallas, and with me I have,
Nathan Dozier.
And Jesse B.
and we are the folks that do your In Summary UMR podcast. Um, I want to start with a good general introductions, because I have a topic that came up at lunch that I think may or may not be a good one to just start with. Who knows? I just kind of want to spring it. So for some reason we were talking about death at lunch today.
Oh, great.
Um,
I'm ready.
and because one of my coworkers was talking about how they're going through a quarter life crisis right now.
Mm.
And they're thinking about like that at the end of the day they don't want to die, which is a healthy thing to have. Because if you do want to die, please seek the help and support you need.
Yes.
But they're talking about how they don't want to die because things are going really well in their life right now, yada yada yada. And I general question, thoughts on death?
Oh, gosh. That's so broad.
It is a very good introduction to this podcast. Hello, my name is Dallas Anthony's. I use he and his pronouns. Anyone can jump in, whoever wants to.
Oh, gosh. Thoughts on death. Um, Dallas, you just gave your whole bio in like 2 seconds. How do you want me to introduce myself?
That doesn't matter. However, you're. I think let me do this. Let me do this for everyone here. Let
Uh-huh.
me give my thoughts on death. You guys figure it out.
Oh, I have my thoughts all well constructed for the record. That's
Okay,
that's I'm more
perfect.
baffled by the question, honestly, more than anything. And
Well,
So
that's what I'm trying to piece together
yeah,
because
how
I don't know. I just didn't think that was the question today.
yeah, I didn't think it was going to be either. And then we just had this conversation during lunch
Sure.
today at NDSU. We have fun here is our trademark. But my thoughts. So I sometimes late at night get in my own head like, damn, we gonna die soon sometime. And then I get kind of sad. And then I get kind of sad. Um, the way I combat that is I like to believe that there's some sort of reincarnation in some capacity. Because if there wasn't, that'd be sad, at least for what I feel. And so I like to believe in reincarnation, whether that's me coming back as another person, as myself in a new life, as an object, depending on how I've, existed in life. Because some people who believe in reincarnation believe like if you did really well in life, then maybe you come back as a cat because they're pampered kind of thing and you deserve it, kind of stuff. That sounds fun. But that's my very short thoughts is like that's just how it gets me through the day when I start thinking about death. I try not to think about death. Because in an ideal world, we're living till what, like past 80, maybe with this economy, not. But like I'll yield and let Nathan, if you'd like to chime
Yeah,
in.
Nathan, go for it.
Sure, man. Hi, my name's Nathan. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm not afraid of death. Uh, so I would have had it more put together if I had known that that was where we were going today. My thoughts on death are pretty chill. um,
It's amazing.
the problem is it's really easy to fall back on any belief system that will make you feel better about it or make you prepared for that type of change. I say change as if that's the word for it, and I'm not sure if it is, but it's life is super great, awesome. We love life, but if it's on two sides of the same coin, then death is a part of it. Death is also life in some way, and to be afraid of it is, I don't know, man. It's like diminishing the point of life. Like we have such a high value. I think we might have talked about this a while ago, but we have such a high value on the individual person's life today that we haven't had any other time. I value life also, but there's got to be something. Like, you can't just end, like, it's got to end. Everything has to end. If you're playing a game of Monopoly and it goes on for 4 hours, it's no longer an awesome game of Monopoly. It's good once it's done, you know? So we're not going to play Monopoly forever. We got to find other games to play.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's my not well put together thoughts on death.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, there was background noise. Okay. I'm struggling with how to answer this, not because I don't have an answer, but because this wasn't how I wanted to come on my first.
Oh yeah, welcome to the podcast, Jesse. Thanks for being a part of this group and this team. And welcome, and this is what we do. So feel free to.
Great. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So I'm Jessie B. I use she, her, hers pronouns. Work at Cornell College, and I am probably less chill about death than Nathan is. So okay, I'm a Christian, was raised Christian, and so our answer for death is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we believe in an afterlife. We believe that it's going to be a lot longer and more rewarding than this one. And so like that's what comforts me about the thought of death. I think it's still a huge, like, I liked what you said, change or transition to go through. But also, like Nathan said, it is a part of living. Like, everyone's going to go through it. And so I think it's worth thinking about. It's worth planning for. I've recently been thinking a lot about just what it means to die well. I saw, I don't know if you guys are into it at all, but A Quiet Place Day One came out last week. And a lot of the premise of that movie is like, what do you do when the world is ending and you're already dying? And how do you die well? So I think it's worth thinking about, how do we die well? If everyone's going to die, how do we prepare well for that? But I don't have like an answer to that question. I think it depends on the person.
Yeah, and I don't think there is an answer, because there isn't. Everyone has their own thoughts, and I appreciate you guys doing that. That was fun. What a good exercise for us. Um, if anyone else has any just other general things they want to share before we hop into some things, this would be the time to do it. I don't have to go first this time since I went first the last time. If someone else wants to jump in.
General things to share. I'm big chillin'.
Big show.
Life is life. We're almost done with camps. Now that we're past the death topic, I can talk about life.
Segues, I'm good at them.
Our last camp here now, not here right now. They come here on the 14th. We're almost done with our orientations, and then we're just kind of getting into the school year.
Heck yeah.
That's my general Nathan news.
The life update rather than the death update.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool first thing for anything. Like, I'll give you a life update, but I'll also give you my death update. All right. So this is
my will shifted around a little bit.
Oh gosh.
So 60%, 65 to my,
Yeah. So my life update, I am also chilling. There's not a lot going on around campus. I think I got 3 weeks into the summer. Maybe it was post summer meeting, and I was like, okay, now I'm bored, and I could handle students coming back. So I'm ready. I'm ready for them to come back. Not as far as my admin or organization, but emotionally, I'm ready. So putting together RA training, that's what I've been working on pretty much every day, and slowly chipping away at it. It will be ready by the time they come.
Heck yeah. So I was just on vacation last week. I was in Colorado. That was cool. The guidebook for life doesn't tell you that if you're on a jet ski, you should put sunscreen on the top of your feet. And so the top of my feet raw. That's not cool. It sucks wearing socks and shoes all the time because it's just rubbing. Other than that, trip was cool. Like I said, I got the jet ski. I was in the mountains. I camped. I went to a Renaissance fair. I went to some casinos. I didn't lose money. Yeah, I did everything. I was there for 8 days, and I think I did everything. I did things every day except one day. We took a break day. But we went to some casinos. I actually left positive and not negative. That was crazy. It was only $20 positive, but that was cool. So did the thing. I love going to Colorado. My dream is to work in Colorado at some point, to live in Colorado. Whenever I just am in Colorado and I walk outside and I see mountains in the background, it just makes me a little bit happier. So would love to be out there. Or Utah. Utah is Red
Mm.
Mountains. Utah Red Mountains. That's pretty cool. Um, that's a personal update. Professionally, what's going on? I mean, yeah, we're the our biggest camp in the summer. USA Wrestling is here. They're coming. Uh, that is the like country's biggest like organized like high school level wrestling competition that happens in Fargo every summer. Um, the people that are living in my building are the people who are like running the organization. They've already started showing up. Teams are starting to arrive. Hawaii just showed up today, this morning, and other teams are going to start showing up this afternoon and tomorrow. And then I think the competitions start Friday, pretty sure. And they'll run for like a week or so, and then they head out. That's our by far our biggest camp that we have at NDSU. They fill up every single room on campus, um, and we have like 13 residence halls, so like they fill up every single room, every space. Um, so that's cool. Um, Student staff come in less than a month. They start moving back in
Mhm.
for training, and that's wild. Because I still have to close my building for summer, and that'll be happening when my new staff is arriving, and so that's fun. And I'm doing the whole catch up game because I was out of the office for a week, and regardless of how long you're out of the office, you're expected to do it all. So here
Yep.
I am doing the thing. No one knows that I'm recording a podcast right now. So that's pretty cool. They think I'm in my office. Haha.
This
Joke's
is
on
work.
you. Joke's on you. I'm in my apartment. I saw my cat the other earlier. Um, but all right, we're gonna jump in. Welcome to the podcast. I hope you guys are still listening. If you're not, then you don't hear me saying that. Uh, Um, so we have a few things that we're going to talk about today. Jesse brought up that one of the things that was slotted for the topics today was like our professional journeys up until this point. I forgot that was part of that, so it's not on my notepad of notes on my phone, and so but we can throw that in. But I wanted because the big thing we're going to talk about, or I want to talk about, is the future of higher ed. But I feel like you can't get to that without talking about how things are going currently in our perspectives. So I
Mhm.
kind of wanted to start with just very general like maybe trends, problems, positives, negatives that you guys are experiencing, witnessing, seeing, whatever it is with the current state of higher education. Very broad question, very large. Feel free to take it however you want.
Jesse, I'll let you go first.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Gosh. So, as an entry level professional, that's barely like my 2 year anniversary is going to be the 28th. So, I haven't even been in higher ed for 2 years. I don't. I don't feel like I have a ton of room to speak, but I mean, what I'm seeing also as someone who is working at a like very small private liberal arts institution, a lot of what we're seeing right now is because enrollment's down, inflation is up, money is an issue for all of the small private colleges. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from. Is we're getting budget cuts and everybody's facing them, and there are like fewer positions open. And so it just, right now from where I'm sitting, it feels very like we don't know what the future looks like, for our type of college, and um, what we're going to be able to offer even in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
So from my perspective, when it comes to the what problems that we run into as higher education institutions, which there's plenty, you can find problems with everything and anything. So I mean, if we want to nitpick all day, we can. I think since I joined the field, I mean, I joined the field literally in 2020, so that was like day one of gloom and doom.
Yeah.
And it's been 4 years, and people still think that higher education's on a downturn, when really, I think we're seeing positive trends right now. We've kind of gotten a little bit away from higher education doesn't teach anything, because it obviously does, or else what would people's jobs be? People have gotten away from, at least not entirely, but somewhat, that all colleges are highly political and trying to brainwash your kids and things like that. And we've kind of now moved more into the, now we have the problem of just parents being very involved, which I'm not sure if it's always a problem. I'd prefer parents are involved than not, by all means, because then students have support. When parents are overly involved, it's not our most fun, but I'd rather that than the alternative, which is not at all. Never mind, that's not the only alternative. There's so many alternatives.
There's got to
Uh,
be a middle ground.
there's got to be, right? Like, it can't just be one end or the other. But we have that type of thing, but I'm not even sure if I call that a problem. I think it's just that I feel students are now having issues because of that, with trying to mitigate their own, like, problems they have with their roommate, problems they have with their classes, meetings with advisors, having issues in general. It feels like it now is always a conversation that includes a parent, and sometimes things need to be said that aren't great in front of a parent, but if that's the student's choice, then that's where we have to go. But I don't know. I don't like having a discussion with a student, for example, who has body odor issues, but they won't have any conversation without their parents. So I have to, in front of their parents, say, "You smell." That's not how I want to do it. So that's always been like, for the last like year or two, that's been the biggest thing that's ever come across my desk that I think is a negative, like, trend for higher education.
Yeah, what a stinky situation for that student. But so sorry. I guess I can start with some comments back and then kind of go into some of my thoughts and all that. But that's interesting that you talk about parent involvement and like how that's changed. Uptick, downtick, however you want to kind of see, however it's kind of like trending. But like that's, I feel like that's actually like that's a really good point. Like I didn't even think about that as like a preliminary as I'm creating this flow of this podcast. I didn't even think of that as like a preliminary thing, because like it's true though. Like this summer during orientation, I've heard a lot of my coworkers talking about how like just like more it seems like parents are, I don't want to use the word like helicoptering over, but like kind of like involved in everything and all the ins and outs of what their child is going to experience while being, at college. I've heard the phrase boy mom a lot recently, and I didn't know that was a phrase. If you guys are confused, I can explain that, of just
Yeah.
like
Please do.
parents who like, or so a mom that their only um type of child is a boy, and so they parent in a different way, and they feel very like well, my son can't be around like this kind of person because they can
Mm,
only kind of think like they have their very idealistic like mindset of how their son should experience X, Y, and Z.
sure.
Um, One of the points being like a lot of these boy moms will ask, is my son going to interact with women? Because he shouldn't. He can only interact with me. I'm the woman in his life. And that's very like weird, without getting into that. But that's like a thing. I didn't know. Learned that this year. I don't do a lot of orientation. My coworkers do. So when they're having conversations at lunch, I just pick up the stuff and I'm like, this is interesting. I don't know. But yes, people like it's a good thing that parents want to be in the lives of their children. That's good. They should also not always be in their life. That's kind of bad. Back to what Nathan said about wanting to be in conduct meetings with them, and now you have to have these awkward conversations kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so there's a checks and balances that I feel like we used to know, like parents used to know, then we had a shift and now like we're trying to relearn it kind of thing. I don't know. That's kind of what I've seen. But without getting on my soapbox, because I always do, I think one of the biggest issues that I've continuously seen, been a part of, will always be an issue until our capitalistic society is improved, is the barrier to entry of higher education because of how expensive it is. And it continues to get expensive. And like, yes, enrollment is, down in places, up in other places. Like, I feel like you're seeing a trend of more people being open, willing, and wanting to go to like junior colleges because of the how it's too expensive to be at a 4-year institution now, for the 4 years plus that you would be there for your
Mm-hmm.
degree path, which I'm glad that there are other options. But then if you really want to like that's good for the student that there are those alternative options when it comes to financial, like go to a junior college, get your associates, come to a, transfer to a 4-year, get your bachelor's, love that there's that alternative. If you want to look at like the professional in that's involved in this, like this game of financials, um, does that mean at some point like there becomes less of a need for like people in like entry level positions in like residence life, let's say, because if like we trend more to people aren't staying at 4-year institutions for so long, or they're not coming, or they're not living there, like what's the point then for like X, Y, and Z positions? Now I don't think that's ever going to really happen, but that could be something that happens. It could be.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I get so worked up about just how expensive higher education is. I think I went on a whole rant on one of these podcasts recently with Nathan about how, why is it so, doesn't the human species want us to be better? Like, to be better is to get education, and why do we make it so expensive? I don't understand. But I'll yield my time for now and let someone else speak.
No, I think an important point about what you're saying too is the fact that like, is the purpose of higher education because it's a business, or is it a purpose of bettering culture in general? Like, is the intention to sustain and make profit? Because if that's the case, then that probably needs to be a little more straightforward.
Right.
And it probably shouldn't be called school. It's people are forced to go to school. People have to go to school to get their high school or do you have to get a high school education? I know as a child you have to go to elementary and middle school. I think I'm under this pretense that you do have to do that, right?
Well, you don't have to do anything.
You don't have
Right.
to
Like,
put your kids through school legally.
Legally, you have to put them through at least, I want to say 6th grade.
that
And
see, that
then
makes sense because like, you can get like in high school, you can get like a GED, which is like,
GED.
Yes.
yeah, which is the high school
Um,
equivalent.
the fact that you don't have to go technically after 6th grade is bananas. I think that probably everyone should have to go to high school through it, or at least get a GED, depending on what people's situations are. I understand that. I also am just speaking from my perspective. So, but I don't know, man. If the purpose is just to better people and to give people like more tools, more options, and just, as you said, better society, then yeah, we probably should figure out a way that it's not, I don't know, $15,000 every single year, and that's on the cheap end.
oh yeah, that's cheap.
Yeah, that's ours. Like we have $15,000 a year, and
Plug.
it's still like that's $15,000. I don't know, man. But I also don't want to waste the time of professors if we somehow made it way cheaper, and the students are like, "Well, I'm not paying that much for this class."
Right.
But
Well, but also, at least this is the case at my institution, I don't know about you guys, but like a lot of my students are not the ones paying for it. And so they aren't feeling that same kind of pressure. And that comes back to like parent involvement. The parents are the ones coming and saying, well, I'm paying for this, so we should get X, Y, and Z, you know?
I'm thinking now of a hot take, which is like this graph that I'm gonna real quick.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So this is parents. I'm just gonna write involvement. Can you see this, by the way?
I mean,
Yes,
until
really.
I have
You
no
might
idea
want
if
to make
you're.
it bigger.
Yeah,
I'll make it bigger.
yeah, go for it. You got this. You got
And
all
this
that
is
space above
silly
there.
because I could just verbalize this, but I won't.
No, this is good. This is a visual podcast now.
Oh no.
Now keep going. Don't worry.
I have a
You got
marker.
it. You got it.
This is part of the experience.
That's involvement, and that's cost of uni, as they call the universities in British places. I think it's just a straight line because as the cost goes up, parents probably help, which means that they have more of a stake in it, so they're probably more involved. This is backed by 37 years of research.
Good.
I am not
Yeah.
affiliated with any university as I speak about my opinions. Thank you.
Right. Yes, that's not.
But now it's probably just a direct correlation because you make a really good point that students don't really pay for their college as commonly as they, I mean, even as probably when all of us were in our undergraduate work. But I mean, I paid for mine. I'm not paid for my college better person, but but no, I mean, if a parent is paying for it, then I mean, in my opinion, they probably should be super involved, even though I would not prefer it as the professional, as a person.
Right.
Yeah, if you're spending your money, fine, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a responsibility to deliver a good product. And again, that's where we need to evaluate, are we a business? Are we educators? Are we influencers of culture? Ooh, sorry for the dog. But also, I mean, there is, I think what I've seen a lot in housing is like with damage charges, we get a lot of unreasonable complaints about how expensive they are when, like, well, your student caused a problem, like it is their responsibility. And if that, like, if you are choosing to pay for their college, then that falls to you. So have a conversation with your student about their responsibilities to a space where they're living. And again, that comes back to helicopter parenting. They have a lot of things that are done for them. And so they get to school and don't know how to live with other people or live in a space.
Or do their laundry, like
do their laundry. I feel like that's the classic one.
that was me. That was me.
Who taught you?
The machine at college taught me. I read the machine of how to do stuff, and I was like, "Oh, cool,
great."
I'll
See, you figured it out.
Yeah, I figured it out in a second, and like I know, it feels like some people just can't, which is always my barrier to how do I assist because.
When you assist people, can you please start with "I'm self-taught"?
Yeah, you know, I opened up a self-help book actually from the internet.
Real quick before we move topics, I just want to make the point that I have a great idea for a t-shirt.
Okay, yeah.
That we could sell to higher education professionals across the board, and we'd make millions.
Yeah,
it would just be landlords don't have an appeal process.
I'm in. Let's do it.
I was saying, if that's not merch, I don't know what is.
Yeah, wow. This is so good.
But yeah, Jesse, you brought up I see. I wanted to say something off of something Jesse said about like charges just in general.
Oh yeah.
I just don't like it feels like there's so many hidden fees and charges in the world of higher ed, whether it's tuition stuff, you're living on campus, whatever it may be. And it's so unfortunate. I will always stand on business when it comes to I don't think like break housing you should have to pay for it. I think if you need to live on campus, you should be able to just live on campus somewhere. Or if that's like not something the business of higher ed wants to do, you can just increase everyone's housing by like less than $10 each semester, and it'll
Mhm.
pay for anything
Yep.
that you need to run over break times.
Mhm.
And I just don't understand why like that's already just not a practice. I know some institutions have free break housing, some don't. If I remember correctly, Nathan's institution has free break housing. So if you're looking for cheap education and a place to live for free on break times, go to Fort Hayes.
Yep.
Sponsor plug. It's okay because I don't work there and I'm sponsoring it.
It's
So
actually we're full right now, weirdly enough. But if you catch me like a month after moving, I'm sure people will drop.
and so like I wish there was if charges were going to stay the same, whether it's for damages in room, which I've always been my philosophy with damages is like unless it's oh my god, almost dropped an F-bomb, guys. Whoa, 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 chill. Unless it's like an egregious like you made a second door in your wall kind of thing. I try my hardest to like be like, you know what, we'll let that one kind of slide.
Sure. Yeah.
Have the conversation with the resident, like, you're gonna have to pay for your own damages in your own house. Right now, we'll give you your free pass.
Mhm.
I try my hardest with that. I mean, I still have my staff record everything, but then I'm very lenient with charges at the end of the day. Just because college is already so expensive. Why am I tacking on another $700 if I don't have to for charges? Um,
Man, do parents love you?
I'm grateful that the students that I interact with are typically older ones, and usually the older the student gets, the more on their own they are, kind of thing. And so I don't think I've ever had a conversation with a parent about charges. I've had conversations with the residents and like the students, but I don't think a parent has ever reached out, whether it's in person at a closing or an opening or during through an email. I don't think I've ever had a parent angrily reach out about something,
Oh my gosh.
which is fantastic because I am now officially in my 4th year at the same institution. I'm on call and I'm getting a call. So you guys keep going.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. No, we can keep talking about that because
Just
also good for him for not having to ever, I
deal with
guess, get a parent like conversation because that's probably
it.
one of the harder parts of our jobs just because you're not talking to the person who has the context for the situation. You're not
Mhm.
talking to someone who even has the context for the university and they
Right.
just care about the one thing. And no
Yep.
matter how much context you give, that doesn't really change their want or need.
Totally. And also sometimes you're not even talking to the person that has legal permission to know. Like that's always the hardest to me is well, hypothetically, if this was a situation that was happening, because I can't tell you that I know your student, then this is kind of what the protocol would be. And people don't take that kind of talking around the issue very well.
No, even if you're giving them the literal answer you're legally not supposed
Yep.
to, they'll still
Yep.
say, well, just tell me about this situation. It's like,
Right. Like,
man,
yes. Get your
sign a
kid to
FERPA
sign the
waiver.
form.
Yeah, if you'll
Like,
sign a FERPA waiver, then
yep.
I'll let you know whatever you want. And then
Mhm.
I tell the student, you know what? If you have them sign a FERPA waiver, that's perfectly fine. But they can see your grades, they can see your emails, they can do whatever. I
Right.
don't, and that's your prerogative. If you want your parent to yell at me, then they have to sign this form.
Exactly.
Hopefully, you have a good
Permission to
relationship.
yell.
Man,
I vibe with it. If you're curious, the call was like tax people trying to collect our taxes, so a spam call.
oh, so you didn't pay
Our
your
duty
taxes?
Yeah, our duty phone gets a lot of spam calls now. I don't know. I think it's just reached that point of that number being in existence. But before we move on from more of like currently our thoughts on things and how our world works, does anyone have any other final thoughts on that kind of stuff before we move on to other things?
I don't want to derail too far, but I just want to ask, have you guys had a larger influx of spam calls recently, like in the last month, to your
Like,
personal phones?
oh yes, on my personal phone, absolutely.
I wouldn't say my personal, but like the duty phone, like legit, like we get 6 to 7 spam calls like every day.
I think I get like 3 a day now, and I used to get 1 a month. I don't know what happened. I don't know what changed.
It's spam season, bro.
It's spam season, man.
You didn't know
Everyone's
about
bored.
that? Yeah, everyone's bored and they're frying up spam. It's a
I
meat
was gonna say I'm about to
substitute.
cook up some spam tonight. I'll send you guys a picture.
Yeah,
Oh,
please. It should be like the logo for the podcast actually moving forward is some cooked up spam.
yeah, put that
Oh,
on
yeah.
our Instagram post.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tasty. We at UMR support spam.
My very
Spam.
first UMR conference on the way, we stopped at the Spam Museum.
There's a spam museum.
There is.
Is it
Yes,
two
I
words?
believe- Sorry?
Is it
It
two
is.
words?
It
They
is.
they
Missed
could
opportunity.
they could have, yeah, the spam
Mhm.
museum. It could have been one word, but okay.
Yeah. But it was an interesting place. I believe, I could be so wrong. I believe it was in Minneapolis.
So like, does it tell you the history of spam?
Yes.
What's
And there
what's
were
the
all
his
these interactive exhibits. You know,
in 10 words or less, what's the history of spam? Count them out if you have to.
I didn't take notes. So
This museum's admission free.
yeah.
You should just
Okay,
come with a can
hashtag
of
not
spam.
sponsored, but go to the spam museum, man. You can go
Yeah.
there for free. What do you have to lose?
How do they stay open then? There must be. Is there a gift shop?
There is a gift
Probably.
shop. I feel like they also have donors.
Yeah, I forget that people just have money that they give away because like I can't do that.
Yeah,
I
no.
wish.
I give it away for myself. I buy myself food whenever I want, but I don't give it away to other people. But let's see what time are we at? Okay, perfect. Let's move into the future. I think let's go that way because
Let's move to the future.
let's move to the future. You know, Back to the Future, those movies that happened. Didn't he want to like kiss his mom or something? Didn't that happen in that movie? He was like attracted to his
Yeah,
mom.
it was
What
a
a
weird time.
what a wild Marty McFly, wasn't he like yeah, Back to the Future. He was attracted to his mom.
I guess, yeah.
Isn't that a weird
Did you
premise
watch
for
those movies, Nathan?
No,
Did I
I
spoil
watched the movie.
spoil alert?
No, I watched the movies.
Talk about a boy mom. Talk about a boy mom.
Oh,
I was
gosh.
thinking that was a gross simplification of the situation.
That's fair. There was a little more nuance.
I'm not attracted to my mom, guys. It's complicated. He's also not maybe the best way to put that.
At this point in time, she wasn't my mom. Okay, like
That's truth.
Wow. Okay.
oh, so we're gonna talk about the future of how we feel like higher ed is gonna, our profession and field is gonna go into. I think I have three miniature topics from the future of higher ed main topic.
From the future. These are beats from the future.
Yeah, exactly. I fresh off the presses. Do you guys want to hear? Do you want me to give you the first one?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. That was good. That was quick. I didn't expect a response that quickly. So I think a very immediate future of our profession is this like new threshold salary bill that's happening for like entry level hall directors across college campuses. I don't know how
FLSA.
What?
It's FLSA.
Yeah, that one. Because in my notes it just is the salary bill.
The Fair Labor Standard Act.
Yeah, and so like there's already been the first threshold change, which made it be if you want to have your people stay on salary 44 or 43.8 or something like that. Regardless, that was like the first threshold.
It's 43,888.
Yeah. And so that already has happened, and then it's in the works for January 1 if it doesn't get defeated in like the challenge to be all the way up to like 50 something. I don't remember. 51, I think.
58.
I think it's higher than that.
Yeah,
58.
58. And so I know at least my institution, if it goes through and the bill or whatever makes it where like entry level people have to be at 58, we are moving to hourly. And so I guess that's like my first like subtopic of the future is like, again, back to finances and stuff of like, where do you guys see like potentially like the effects of like potentially having to move to like hourly for like your hall directors at your college campus or whatever it may be?
From So I'm not entry level. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on it, but not by a lot. What's probably most likely going to happen is if it does get past that, we have to go to 58. I think it'd be more likely we go to hourly, just because that is a huge dig into a budget that already has had huge digs in the last year. And I just don't think that that's feasible for us. And probably at that point, overtime is way easier to handle. I'm pretty sure we're right now just banking on it not going through
Yeah.
at 58. But if it does, it is what it is. But that hourly is probably going to change how training and on call look by a large amount because
Mhm.
both of those, as of right now, are not in a place where we can manage just going to hourly without just giving a buttload of overtime during those times. So instead, at least for training, I can't imagine that that's not just going to be a longer training process on both ends of the professional staff and the RAs because I think right now we dig a little bit early and a little bit late, and we just have to make those into the nice, neat 8 hour sections. And then we'd probably just have to use the cafeteria for dinner. So then after 4:30, no one's working regardless. Even if everyone was like, dang, I just really want to get this thing done, it's going to be a lot harder to just let people finish things outside of hours. I've also seen professionals in the past who prefer to do things later in the day and will sometimes even delay doing a lot of things and kind of just hang out in the office so then they can work after hours, which I fully disagree with. I don't know why you would want to do that in life. But yeah, it's just more likely that we're going to end up with hourly and just big changes.
So I don't I feel like I shouldn't even talk about this, but we've already converted to hourly for my position. So greetings from the future. Um, and it's not changing much so far for us because we've already kind of used flex time more than anything else. Like there hasn't been a lot of overtime, and we're going to kind of stick with that at this point. So our department, because we're small enough, my supervisor is okay with, like, it doesn't have to be 8 to 5. You can come in at 10 if you have an RA meeting late, you know. Um, so we're finding kind of loopholes, ways around it. But it does change. I mean, like, that impacts on call. And so we're changing some of the things that we have to respond in person for, which is going to affect training protocols and how our campus safety is trained to handle things. So it's crazy how one little change like that can have a ripple to so many different departments that don't even, like, they didn't expect to have any kind of impact, but now they have to be ready for so much more because we are not really allowed to work at certain times. So
Yeah, one of my hot takes is hall director shouldn't be on call, but I won't get back into that. If you want to hear that standpoint, go listen to one of our previous podcasts. Listen to them all and find that. Um,
But if you
but
don't want to listen to them all because you don't have time, it was episode 2.
it wasn't only the second one that was the hot takes one.
I think second episode was hot takes.
Oh yeah, that was
a lot of hot takes.
yeah. But no, for the salary stuff and like finances and like the near future, it's interesting to hear your perspective, Jesse, with like you're already hourly and things haven't changed too much yet, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because maybe I'm catastrophizing here. I'm foreseeing the world crumbling around me if I have to go to hourly. I'll explain. So, um, I envision it and I just clicked these thoughts as you guys were talking. So if they're a little choppy, my bad. I didn't prep my thoughts for this. I just have the topics that we're going to talk about. Um, I envision it being similar to my experience in grad school when I had to only be technically 20 hours. And um, I had to record or document all the things I was doing and try to fit it in 20 hours. And if we went over any week, we basically just clocked that somewhere else, and then we on good faith that the
Right.
department would let us flex our time in the future and not come in for half the week or whatever because we worked 60 hours over in a month or whatever it may be.
Right.
Um, I was young and naive and stupid at the time in grad school, where I was documenting all my hours. I had so many. At one point, I think I had 67 hours over that I worked that I needed to flex at some point.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um, that comes with the fact that like our grad students in my grad institution, our cohort was like at all the RA trainings. We were at all of the everythings. We had hall director training. We went to everything and kind of thing. So especially at like the hot times, we were working full 40-hour weeks as grad students. And so that, that compounds itself.
Mhm.
Um, I like I said, recorded everything. My coworkers did a really good job because all of my grad student peers in my department were not going into higher ed after grad school. They were all in different things. They're doing other things. They just had the grad assistantship to get them through that time period. And
Right.
so they all were really good with, actually, yeah, I did work 67 extra hours. I'm not coming in for a month. I'll see you later. I, being, wanting the experience and knowing I'm getting to higher ed, just kept telling my supervisor and his supervisor, like, yeah, don't worry, I'll take the time off. And I never did. I just kept working
Mm.
because it's what I kept saying, well, I'm getting the experience that I need and I'll be prepared for the future, which I was. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
But I foresee it being similar uh,
Mhm.
in a way where maybe newer professionals, whether at my institution or other institutions, might feel like even if they are working over and they're told that they are supposed to like dock it as overtime or dock it as flex time, they're going to think, oh, I can't because I have to do X, Y, and Z, or I can't because that means I'm not, visually available or physically available for my residents, or I can't because what will the department think of me? I'm not working as hard as other people, or whatever it may be. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope newer professionals aren't in that mindset. Again, I know I was in grad school. I thought I had to do all this, that, and the other thing to almost prove myself,
Yeah,
quote unquote,
absolutely.
which is an unfortunate thing that is still apparent, especially with the generational gap that's in this field, is the
Mhm.
idea that newer professionals feel like they have to prove themselves to the older professionals, and
Yeah.
the older professionals feel like you better prove yourself to me because I proved myself 20 years ago, kind of thing. And
Mhm.
so I foresee it being where people who just don't feel confident enough to flex their time appropriately are going to not flex their time, and they're going to get the short end of the stick. I'm also nervous, just like wage wise.
Totally.
If we do go hourly, is it going to be a comparable wage to what I make salary currently?
Right.
Um, because if not, bro, I need a new job. And I've said that already to peers, and so that's not a if Brooks, you find yourself listening to this podcast at any point, uh, plug to our UMR president. He's also my supervisor.
Mhm.
Um, if he finds himself listening, I've already said this at one point that depending on how I feel like I'm getting paid, I might need to adjust where I am hosted. But
That
uh,
was a great way to say that.
yeah. And thank you. I do my best sometimes, not all the time, but most times I try. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it might end up being the worst thing in the world. But again, I'm also very hopeful that like the challenge is going to go through and we're not going to have to go up to that other threshold because we've
Right.
already adjusted at NDSU to hit that first threshold. We've already increased everyone's
Okay.
salary. The one caveat that came with that is that we increased salaries, but we took away people's meal plans. So now I have to learn how to
Um,
make lunch for myself. And that's ridiculous. I don't know how to be a real human. I've lived in residence halls for 9 years now. So like
that's that's real though.
like today I had half of a sandwich and a bag of chips.
You want me to send you some
Sure.
YouTubers that just make some really easy food?
What I've been doing for dinners lately, because I'm on this health kick. Okay, I've been counting calories. That's fun. And I've hit my first weight goal. Fun fact. I'll update
Hey,
you guys in a
amazing.
year if I'm there where I want to be in a year. But I've been doing like and sue me if you don't like what I'm about to say. I've been doing like a half carnivore diet, kind of, where my dinners are just meat. I just eat meat for my dinner. So like last night, I ate a bowl of a pound of ground beef. That was my
Please tell me
dinner.
you seasoned it.
I put some seasoning in it, some garlic, salt.
Okay.
I put a little bit of ranch in there and shook it up. And
Okay.
so, like
Good.
I did things to it, but it was just ground beef in a bowl as if I was eating ground beef cereal. And so I can't do that for lunch too. I need some sort of variety in my life.
You
Uh,
know that like tacos are an option, right? Like you were
yeah, but
three
tortillas,
ingredients
a
away.
lot of tortillas, and so cheese, high calories for low amount of stuff.
It's true.
Tortillas, a lot of them that taste like a tortilla. One is like 220 calories, and that I
Yeah.
like if I'm trying to go calorie deficit to actually lose weight, I can't I can't sacrifice that much calories on a tortilla.
There's a 45-calorie low carb tortilla.
Yeah, there is, but like
Does
that,
it taste
those
good?
don't taste good.
Well, they
You
taste
can do
better
like a
than
taco
eating.
salad.
Well,
I
than
Lettuce,
can't.
eating a
lettuce is
bowl of
like
meat.
0 calories.
Yeah, and I can't eat lettuce. Have we ever talked about that? I can't do lettuce.
Can
It's
you do spinach?
disgusting. Well, I like the spinach that comes in the chicken gnocchi soup at Olive Garden sponsor.
Oh, Doug, okay, so you're telling me that you would rather eat meat cereal
Yes.
than eat eat meat cereal in a
Yep.
I almost a crappy tortilla. There we go.
Yeah. Because at the
That's
end of the day, a pound of the meat that I ate was 680 calories, and it made me have less than what like my daily average, whatever. And so that means I lost weight yesterday.
That's true, but also
And I was on Discord with a friend, and I was just eating my ground beef cereal.
to have a
listen, if
calorie
that
deficit,
works for you.
I was say, is there a requirement for a joy deficit?
Yeah. Once a year from now happens and I'm happier, I'm okay with this joy deficit currently. You
It's
know what I
fair. I
mean?
respect that.
Yeah, so not to get too derailed because we don't have a lot of time left, and I'd like to get through some other things before I have my fun questions at the end. So let's wrap back to I have another subtopic of future. One being technology. I think technology is going to be a big thing in or is already a big thing in higher ed, whether you have access to it because you have the resources or not. That's another subtopic, but I don't want to get into that part of it. I think COVID showed us how higher ed, um, how easy it is to integrate um, technology into daily teaching.
Mhm.
Whether or not the information actually was sticking with the students is a different story, but at least we a lot of institutions flipped the switch so quickly of like we're going all virtual now, and it worked. It didn't. There's you can have debate on that, whatever.
Right.
I think there is a real possibility that 10, 15, 20 years down the line, higher ed just turns into all virtual and
Mhm.
everyone there's just like not these jobs anymore.
Mhm.
I think that was my thoughts on technology. I don't know if anyone has other things in that world that they want to talk about.
I think we're very far gone from that personally. I think the ability to get people's like education entirely through technology is tough, mostly because there are too many people who rely on hands-on learning or rely on things being explained in a different way. And the electronically is just not the greatest medium for nuance. It teaches everyone the same way without taking into account what those people are. I
Mhm.
don't know the best word for it, but that's just it. Um, so from I guess from my perspective, I'm not worried about that part of technology. I'm more worried about how technology is being utilized to skirt systems, abuse systems, and honestly, probably destroy different infrastructures that we're not thinking about. Probably more to do with security than anything.
Mm. My whole IT department would love you right now for that. Um, yeah, I think that we have kind of two simultaneous. I'm not going to call them problems, but just things that we're dealing with right now where there's an increase in like diagnoses of neurodivergence. So whether that's ADHD or autism or OCD, anything that falls under that umbrella, we have way more students that know they have a diagnosis like that, or even suspect because it's more public than ever before. And those are the same students that are going to generally need like a more tailored learning approach, which is harder to do online. And yeah, as someone who is neurodivergent myself, like I don't remember truly. I was still an undergrad when COVID hit, and I don't remember anything about that semester online. And so I think, Dallas, to your point, we could potentially end up just doing online school. Like we have the power to do it, but I do think with just so much neurodiversity coming into higher education, I don't know that it's going to be feasible. And we're like, research is just going to have to be done. We don't have, I think, the research on any of it, on COVID and what those learning outcomes were, on like learning online in general, on neurodiversity, the way that we're seeing it. Like all of that is going to come out in the next 25 years. And then I think then higher ed will have a direction to go based on all of that.
I could see a world where higher ed turns into a more like the in-person portion is more of like the specialized, like if you need some sort of specialized support and assistance depending on your personal situation, that could be like the in-person stuff. And then the virtual is like anyone else who feels like they can get accurate, support and assistance, that medium would then use that, which could then still see a downwards trend of actual brick and mortar institutions, but then the institutions that are brick and mortar being more specialized for people who, need that extra support or whatever it may be.
Well, again,
which I think would be really interesting to see.
Yeah. And I think as it's more cost effective often to be online in the economy that we're in right now, we may see more of that. And then there are specialized institutions, right, that have residential programs. So I don't know. I feel like there's so many converging issues at this time that we're in that we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And I also want to make the point too that I think there are also some just fields of study that can't be online yet. We just don't have a way to do it. My deep dark secret was that I was a music major, but but music was a huge one that like, man, it's technically possible for like 80% of it. And then the extra 20% of like ensemble work and doing lessons virtually with someone who has bad internet is literally impossible. You don't they just play. So what's the point? What are we doing? Same goes for like nursing. You have so much hands-on work that you would have to come in person for a lab at that point. There's not really a way around it. You have to be hands-on to learn the skills to do what they do.
Yeah, and I wonder if, like I said, like with a more specialized, like because there's already trade schools for like trades. I wonder if like you could alter higher education to like that the associate's degree portion is like the virtual portion.
Sure.
And then any continued education that you want to specialize in, whether it is, nursing or music or agriculture, whatever it may be, kind of thing, like then you would go to somewhere physically. But I want to keep rolling. We got a little bit of time left and I want to keep going. So I'd like the two of you to decide to pick a number 1, 2, or 3, and that's going to give me my next thing that I have for y'all. So what number do we want? 1, 2, or 3?
Nathan, do you have a preference?
I'm not thinking 1. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I was thinking 2.
2? I was thinking 2. That
okay,
works.
great. We're on the same page.
So the question that I have for you guys then is Thank you for picking number two. Is I feel like a big problem area, whether it's this generation of workers or how the field is turning, I'm not completely sure, whatever it may be, is just like motivation and retention, for especially entry level workers in higher ed. So thoughts on how to keep people motivated and retained in your institution as well as just in higher ed in general?
Oh, I
This
got
is,
ideas.
oh,
No,
go.
please, Jesse, if you got ideas, you got ideas.
This is something that we have started to talk about at Cornell, just as things have shifted, like as far as our wages and we're seeing higher levels of burnout, especially in entry level professionals. Um, and I don't know that we've found a ton of solutions, but I think the one that we have talked about the most um, is burnout, and the way you deal with burnout is actually a reduction in expectation. You can't give someone a vacation for burnout, and like that's not. They need to consistently continue to work with lower requirements and more support. And I think until we can stop burning out entry level professionals, um, retention is just going to be tricky. And especially with the students that we are seeing, at least at my institution, students that we're seeing now tend to be pretty high need individuals. And so we're getting, more calls that we have to show up to in person, and even more hospital transports because of mental health things. And those kinds of things take a toll. And so I think higher ed now, especially for people who are entry level and dealing with more on-call stuff, it's got a higher potential for burnout than it ever has, and it was hard before. And so until we can solve that problem, I don't know that we can solve retention issues.
I struggle with this one mostly because I jumped into higher education into a department that had no historical documentation really because the last people who were in that department kind of skedaddled and didn't leave transitions. So we kind of started from scratch I guess the year before I joined in. So historical documentation wasn't super like amazing. You have to dig a lot to find the things that we need to find 80% of the time, although we've pretty much pieced it back together now. But as I started as a professional at the entry level, I'm pretty sure like week two, I got pretty burnt out already just because there were just issues and I had frustrations with some colleagues and things like that. And then those didn't get really like fixed. And those colleagues are still here. And it's been 3 years off the record. This is hypothetical in Minecraft. But if I had frustrations in that situation, and those frustrations still continue in 2024 since 2021, then I don't think burnout is even, I don't think anyone's asking if I'm burnt out because they already know at that
Yeah.
point. Unfortunately, when it comes to how do you do retention at that point, there is none after that long. So it probably just needs to get addressed quickly, from my perspective. If you know that someone's struggling and you just leave it, it's going to get rough. And the longer it takes that person to just leave, the more they're going to resent the entirety of the structure. So as a supervisor, you just need to be on top of it. If you notice that someone's struggling, it sucks. Difficult conversations are awful. They're not fun. They wouldn't be called difficult if that was the case. But just have those conversations as early as possible. But for the people who are burnt out, damn, that sucks, man. It's awful. It sucks, and it's not a great solution from your perspective unless you feel comfortable talking to your supervisor about it, or if you feel comfortable taking the time that you need or finding someone to help you delegate or mitigate. But from a perspective of a supervisor, it's 100% your fault if you're not addressing it and taking care of it every single time.
Well, and I think too, there needs to be like I'm really lucky to have a really amazing supervisor who has not allowed us to experience as much burnout. I think there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
But like I'm about to finish my second year and I don't feel like I'm burnt out. I'm tired. And there are things that I'd rather not deal with anymore. But there's not the same, like my threshold for how much crisis I can handle or how many hard conversations I can have is about the same as when I started. It hasn't gotten lower. I'm not experiencing like the depression and irritability that can come with burnout yet. And I think a lot of that is thanks to my boss, shout out Dan Chow, that he's flexible with us. Like if I needed a reduction in my responsibilities, if I needed help with delegation and even just some of the like on the job learning, he's been there to provide it. I think too, like a huge part of managing burnout is having work-life balance. And if a department, if the housing department isn't going to provide that, like if the expectation and the culture is just, we work 60 hours a week and that's just how it is, suck it up, you're a part of this now, that's never gonna, that's not sustainable. And so I think and speaking as an entry level professional, I was also really grateful coming into this that I already had learned boundaries the hard way. And I knew what it was to be burnt out. And so I was really protective of what I did when. But I think that can be hard for some people that are just getting into it and haven't had to learn that yet.
I also want to make note of the reason I started off being burnt out was as a grad. First week was going straight into training, then straight into move-in and straight into like training for CAs and everything like that. But the biggest thing was the supervisor I had at the time, who he is no longer here, but he had me help him prepare keys for apartment move-in the night before until 4:30 in the morning. And then from there wasn't enough time for me even to get sleep in between preparing those keys and then being ready at 8 a.m. for apartment move-in. So then we pulled an all-nighter, and that's when I learned my work-life balance pretty rough.
Yeah.
From the get-go, it was, if
Yeah.
you ask me to do anything, it better be within my billable hours.
Good. Yeah, because that's
absolutely.
a disaster. And that's not the kind of thing that happens in positions that like get more respect. Like you're not going to see that kind of thing exactly in the corporate world, or like I think that's a unique thing to higher ed.
Yeah, and it should be even more unique than that. So unique that you've never heard of it.
Right.
Because there's no situation where people should feel like because they worked longer or harder or more in general, then they are a better professional than you, because that's not how it is. If you're going to work more than you're supposed to, then you're worse at your boundaries and you're a worse professional than me. And we should normalize that. Take care of yourself, because you'll be a better whole person, and that'll help you in your job.
Exactly.
Are you guys ready for our final game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to blind ranking these residence life interactions that you might go through or experience. I'm going to give you a residence life interaction or experience you might go through. And you have to blindly rank them as a team, Jesse and Nathan. You have to rank them as a team and see what we get at the end. And I'll keep track of which ones you are ranking where, kind of thing. Remember, you can't change your ranking. So once you put something at like the 3 slot, it stays at the 3 slot. Okay.
Oh.
Yep, you cannot change it. It's gonna be 5.
Okay.
It's gonna be 5. All
Okay,
right.
okay. And
So
we one tense.
one is gonna be like, wow, this is the best thing I could ever experience in the job. 5 being, I'd rather not be doing that.
We're back to death.
So I'd rather be gone from my position. And
Okay.
so
Yes.
if you guys are ready, I'll give you the first
Yeah.
topic.
Okay.
And remember, you never know what you're gonna get, so that's
Yeah.
the joy of this game. But the first thing I
Especially
have
coming from
is
you.
the first one is conduct meetings.
Yeah, you go, Nathan.
I think we're a team though, right? Like we come
Yep.
up with one
You
ranking.
guys
Yes,
are
yeah,
one
but I
ranking
want to hear your
together.
thoughts.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so without any other information about the rest of the things that will happen, and being that we only have 5 slots, I think putting it at 3 will then let us gauge the rest of them as better or worse than conduct
Okay.
meetings.
This is a good strategy. I like it. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. We have conduct meetings at 3. Okay. The next one is student staff hiring and placement.
Okay. Thoughts, Jesse?
I feel like it's better. I don't know. Some people hate hiring. I really like hiring.
A lot of work comes with that
It is
too.
it is a lot of work. It's a ton of time, but it's more pleasant, I think, than conduct.
I personally love defined work versus undefined work. So if
Sure,
something's, yeah, I mean, it's a process that we have the step 1 to step 88, then yeah, I mean, I'd say, I think that's a fine number 2.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here for it.
Sweet. Okay, we're on the same page.
All right, perfect. We got student staff hiring and placement at 2. The next one is one of your coworkers leaves the position unexpectedly.
Oh gosh. I want to put that at I feel like 5 is going to be like a student death or something. So
I will give you. I am not doing that as one. I did
Okay.
not. I did not put that on this.
Okay, so it's just the beginning of the podcast, not the end. Thanks.
I'm afraid to put that at a 5, but that's bad.
Yeah, we actually just had that 2 weeks ago, and it's thrown more than the biggest wrench that I've ever had in my job, because it was our admin assistant who has so many things that go through that chair that I have never known.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like, oh, how do I get my per diem? Oh, how do I get the invoices for our camps paid?
Who knows?
Also,
no.
all of our camp invoices have our old admin assistant as an approver, so we can't get paid for them.
Pretty good.
Lots of that stuff. So I don't know. I think that's a 5. Like, I know there's
Okay.
probably a worse one because you saved the worst for last, but
Or maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe not.
Or maybe
Let's
not.
put it at 5.
I like 5, even though I'm sure there's going to be something.
All right, put that at 5. Okay. The next one is once you're hired, your supervisor says, "We're a family here."
6.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's gonna have to be 4 because that's all we have left. But
Yeah, no. We have that in 1.
that's so scary.
What's the problem? Then the last thing is going to be an awful, awful thing. It's going to be worse than we're a family here.
Maybe. Who knows?
I guess that's what we co-signed, and that's going to be our name on it for the rest of time. And then people are going to be like, well, we should hire Nathan and Jesse because they want to be a family.
They want to be a family.
Yeah, wow.
Dogs,
And
apparently, it's going to be number 1, the last one.
So we're putting we're a family at 4 or 1?
4.
4.
Yeah. 4.
It's going
Okay.
to be 4. It
All
should
right.
be 5.
Okay. And the last one that is wild that we kept 1 till the end, but it's the first welcome week on campus. So all the student activities and all of the fun stuff that happens,
Oh,
you know.
1 every time.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be 1 anyway, but also
It has to be, but yes.
Yeah. To give you a summary of this list that she made that I put on my phone, you have the first week on campus, the welcome week activities is number 1. You put student staff hiring and placement at 2. You put conduct meetings at 3. You put we're a family here at 4, and you put that your coworker leaves unexpectedly at 5, which is a pretty good list.
You know,
Yeah,
actually,
we did pretty well.
yeah, when you read it out loud, I actually think I would prefer someone saying we're a family here than a coworker randomly leaving almost any time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because I at least can mitigate we're a family, right? I can be like, hey, I just want you to know that,
No.
We're
like,
not. We're
Yeah.
distant
Not.
cousins, actually, at the
Yeah,
most.
forced blood runs a lot thinner.
Oh gosh.
Ooh. Well, thank you for participating in that. I made one of those topics on the spot when you guys were chatting about the last one. Fun fact about my preparation for this podcast.
Oh,
So, but again, thank you both for your thoughts on everything we talked about today. And to end very abruptly, because I love doing that. In summary, higher education, it's somewhere and it's going to go somewhere else. So thank you for listening to the UMR podcast. In summary, it's your boy Dallas.
it's your boy Nate.
And your girl, Jessie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will be right back in this same kind of situation next month. So I hope you listen to that one too. All right, you guys have a swell day.